Well, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. Today's video is about a radio that I purchased. This is an oldie but a goodie. It looked like it was in pretty good shape, but I always say when you're buying used radio equipment, you really don't know what you get until you actually get it and test it out. So, with that in mind, we hope for the best. If it's not the best, well, it kind of is what it is at this point, but it definitely was one of my favorite radios from back in the early days when I got introduced to CB radio. This radio in this box will be the for me anyways, was the first single sideband CB radio I ever owned. And starting on the hobby, I had AM radios, and then somehow or another, the way it worked out, I ended up getting this radio. So let's get the box open and we'll check out what radio it is. So we'll be right back with that. Okay, well, this is the radio. A lot of you will remember this radio, and it's very synonymous with being a very high quality single sideband CB radio. It does take your 5-pin unit end jack. So hopefully I have an adapter. I believe I do somewhere. Or we may be having to make something to accommodate this radio. So at least to work on the test equipment with the 4-pin mic plug that I use there. So I'm not sure. The seller said that it works, but they always say stuff works. Whether it works good or not, I guess we'll wait to find out. And whether or not it has any modifications or anything like that. It's fairly clean. You guys can see the face. It's really clean. It's got some scratching and stuff up there, so typical for its age. Its covers aren't terrible. They had the thumb screws. They had one of each on each side, and typical what you would see on a used older radio. Nothing horrible by any means, but there's the back. It's a Philippines, and that's really it. I don't know what that means. It's a eight, so I don't know if that means an 88 or 98. I don't really know what the whole unit and serial number meant. I know on a lot of newer radios like Rangers, they usually put when they were made, Galaxy, stuff like that. So this I'm not really sure. And I mean, as far as the Philippines goes, everybody thinks all the Philippines are the best and everything. So I'll kind of leave that to everybody. Has their personal opinion on that. To me, it really doesn't matter. They are all pretty much they're all made somewhere else. So Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Taiwan. You didn't start seeing the China stuff till Rangers started getting involved, and then they started making boards for like Cobra and stuff, and then it was the China. So generally then the quality kind of went down on the boards and stuff, and then the radio qualities kind of went down. So this hopefully will be a high quality. So let's get it hooked up, turn it on, and see what we get. I'm kind of curious to see. A lot of times people would modify channels on the high, low, bright, dim. So I don't know. I didn't ask any questions really, and they didn't really say much more than it worked and it was tested out. So we'll find out. Okay, I guess the moment of truth here. Well, no, it's not as bad as it looks. Unfortunately, I didn't turn on my power supply, so that's my own mistake. So let's get that on first. And I guess now will be the moment of truth. Hey. So I think you have to have a mic plugged in on this radio to get received. So as far as that goes, It's factory, because if you had channels, usually it wouldn't dim out, so. All the channels look like they're good. So I need to find a mic cord, some kind of adapter. I think I might be looking at one right now up there on my tester. I'm not sure if that's for HR2510 though, because I have one of those too, so it could be that one. Anyways, I'll have to find something. But the reason I got this, because I'm really a fan of this style of radio. They're very basic looking, and to me that's what I was introduced to with CB radio back in the 1990s, was a very basic looking radio. To me this was a nice looking radio back then, and it really still is today in my opinion. And that's why I have like the little PC-122 here. Same era of radio, same kind of design with the grayed background, silver, whatever you want to call it. Not as nice of radio in my opinion because of the LEDs for the lights for the signal meter. I feel like they could have easily put in a S meter like this. It looks like this might have some issue with the S meter. Maybe that's just static buildup, I don't know. So we might have to see about putting a new meter in this radio, but could just be static from not being used for so long, maybe coming across my fingertip in there. I'm not really sure, but I guess enough of me rambling on. Let's get a mic and we'll see what's going on with it. Okay, so we got ourselves a mic adapter. Had to dig deep to find it because I don't get a whole lot of radios anymore come in here that have the 5-pin jack. Most of the radios nowadays, and for quite a while, have been produced with at least the 4-pin or the 6-pin, something like that. So picking up some locals here on my little rubber duck on the ICOM. That's what this radio's on, the local channel, but it's just picking up off that little antenna that's sticking up there, the black antenna. So, but to my surprise, the radio is pretty much factory stock from what I'm seeing. So that's great. No modifications. Any of the high-low stuff is factory. Still trying to figure out. I'm not getting any sound out of it, I don't think. Let me see. Well, honestly, I don't think my mic has the pin 4 connected, so that's probably why. Hang on just a second. Okay, so we got that straightened out. Just that other mic I had on there, pin 4 wasn't connected, so that's the receive wire. So yeah, these radios, you had to have a microphone hooked up to get receive out of the speaker. Sound, I mean, out of the speaker. The radio still receives, you just don't get sound. Unless you do probably a modification or something like that on the board, you could bypass that. But this thing appears to be intact as far as everything on the front is factory. So that's great. Even the clarifier's locked, which is fine. I don't see no need to really, you don't need to unlock the clarifier in this thing. It is a little out of alignment as far as the frequency.
Yeah, I gotta give me a real radio.
As far as the frequency, there's that local guy again. He's just blasting in. And we're on the dummy load on this radio, so let me get the test equipment set up. We'll just look at the waveform really quick and see where we're at with that. And then I'll hook up the receive RF generator to it. We'll just check that out. And that's probably it. Maybe I'll pop the cover, let you guys see inside of it. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our microphone plugged in from the RF generator, audio generator. We're coming in on the meter. Whoops, sorry about that. A little over 3.5 watts, so it's pretty much factory. And here's our oscilloscope. Let me set this up. Forgot to set the generator up. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's factory radio as far as that goes. No limiters are cut, anything. So that's great. Really happy about that. It's on AM. See what it's doing with the tone. And of course, it's going to peg a 5 watt. Let's do a 25, I guess. A little under 12 watts with the tone, so that's good. With the voice, it was doing almost 15. So let's check out sideband really quick. Just 1 second. Okay, got the radio in lower sideband. That's the dual tone. It's about the same output, about 11.5, probably somewhere in there, watts. So that's good. And that's what it looks like. And that's what it looks like on the spectrum analyzer. This is a, let me see where we're at here. We'll span out to 60 megahertz. So that's where we're at. So that's the beauty of these older radios, and really even just the normal 40 channel CB radios that are made today, is how clear and clean they are on a spectrum analyzer. There's really nothing to really worry about. I mean, yeah, if you go in and disable the AMC, you're going to splatter some and everything else, but regardless, I mean, just all the other crap that could be out of band, there's nothing. So put this thing back in AM, hitting it with the dual tone, so let's fix that. Put that back to 1 kilohertz. That's better. So that's our AM right there, and you can see there's nothing popping up. Do 15 megahertz span. So we're looking at like 19 megahertz here, or over here, I'm sorry, and 34 over here. Let's span it down into 5 megahertz. Good. 2 megahertz. 1. 500K. 100K. That's what I like to show on an AM carrier and being modulated is channel 20, 195, 215. You can see everything is going away, both sides. So nice to see that there's a radio still out there that you can find. And this was on the popular auction website, which you guys all know what that is. So let's test out the receiver. See what we're doing there. Okay, we have the RF generator hooked up. We're doing an S9 check on AM. So this is where we're at. And it's just a little bit low. Not too bad. So let's start turning the amplitude down. We'll see how low it's hearing on AM at 30% modulation. That's at 113 right now. 123. That's 133, so it pretty much died off. Let's try 128. Yeah, you can still just faintly hear it in there. It's definitely got a good receiver. There's 126. 124. 122. So it definitely starts coming up. And that's at 30% modulation. Let's just put it to 100. There's 100%. We'll go back down to like 133. Whoop. It's 133. You can hear it in there. It's real weak. So say it's really good for its age. Let's go to lower sideband. We're at minus 135. We need to go to the right offset, so there we go. So I can still kind of hear it in there. It's 125, 115. There's 128. Let's turn it back down to 30%. You could still hear it. -1. Whoop. There's 133. You can just, I don't know if you guys are picking up the tone because I'm using a microphone today. It's clipped onto my, I'm wearing a hooded sweatshirt because it's cold in here. We got the air on and it gets kind of chilly. But I can just barely hear that tone in there at -133 at 30% modulation. I put one of the, this is the little microphone clip. I got another one on me still, so I'll put that there and maybe it'll pick it up a little better. There's 123. 113, 123, 133, there's 143. So there's that local guy right there. Let's turn the modulation level up to 100%. And at the very bottom of this RF generator, 143. So start to come up. There's 133, or 135. It's still in there. 138. Like it dies out, so maybe it's still in there a little bit. Yeah, it's still in there. So all in all, I think it's a great performing receiver. Just the S9 might be a little off, but that's a simple adjustment. Yeah, you could probably go through an alignment procedure and maybe increase the receive sensitivity a little bit. But these were always really good receivers anyway. So for it to be performing this good for how old it is, I think it's just fine. So I do have a Synad tester here. I haven't had a chance really to feel comfortable with using it yet. I need to read up on the manual that I have for it a little bit more and kind of familiarize myself with it. But get the kind of the gist of it is you have a lead here hooks up to the speaker jack of the CB or whatever radio you have in test. And it's pretty crazy that I'm hearing locals come in through this generator as I'm feeding in a signal.
I'll tell you what, I wish my radio was as loud as yours right now.
That guy's really close. I'm not sure who he is. I've heard him before, but he's really close to me. So let's shut this off. There we go. So anyways, this, I believe one of the leads connects, like you could put an external speaker jack out the back of your CB and you could just cut the cord on one side if you had an old speaker you weren't using or something, or headphone, whatever has that plug. You can connect one end to the negative, one end to the positive. And I think basically what it does is it feeds the signal into this Synad 3, and then there's a way to, AC voltage. You can check your AC voltage, and it's depending on 1 volt is what this is on right now, so that would be 1 volt right there where the 10 is. So, and then if you had it in this setting, this would be 3 volt right here, and then of course if you put it in 10, whoop, then that would be 10 volt right there. So it's kind of how that works. And then when you want to do a synad test, you just hit the synad button, and then it goes to this meter down here. And usually you want to make sure you're at about 12 dB synad. You know, that's the reference. And you can reference what if you can find service information or the specs for the radio, it'll tell you usually what you should be at for the synad, 12 dB synad. So you can kind of cross-reference that by using your RF generator, feeding 1K in, which this does have internal, 1K in and, you know, so much amplitude down, and you can tell is your receiver up to what the factory spec is. And if it is, generally you really don't need to worry about trying to improve it, because that's generally, at least for listening, from my understanding, signal to noise ratio basically is about, you know, where they would think that the most comfortable level would be with all the noise coming in. And you know, we're talking it's going to be a low signal anyways at 12 dB synad, so it's going to be down there, but you're still going to be able to understand it fully. And yeah, you could probably go lower, like how I was feeding in those super low amplitude amounts, but honestly, would you be able to copy somebody on day-to-day communications? Probably not. Now, if it's quiet out, yeah, you might be able to copy somebody way down that low, but you'd also have to have a very good antenna to be able to pull somebody in that coming in that far away as well. So there's a lot of variables to it, but you know, I'm still kind of learning with this. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and use it yet, so that'll be something that'll probably be coming up later or something like that. So I've had that for a while. I just finally got it out when I got this, so kind of goes hand in hand with this. So, and yeah, so far I'm happy with the Grand XL here. I think it's going to be a nice one to have here with the collection. So I don't know, I'm gonna pop the bottom. We'll just take a look inside, and I don't expect to see anything out of the ordinary. I think everything is going to be factory, so we'll take a quick look for those that want to see. We'll get it on bottom off it, and I'll be right back. Oh, and I just wanted to say too, I'm not really an expert when it comes to like this synad tester and stuff. I'm still learning. Everything is a learning process, and I'm happy to learn. And yeah, this may not be the best piece of test equipment, and this may not be either, but for me it definitely is better than not having it. So I'm happy to have both of these pieces of test equipment, because it really just helps me out to make sure that these radios, when they come out of here, they're receiving right. And you know, buying something used, you just never know what's been done to it. So by having this stuff, you can tell right away, okay, this radio's working good. So no problems there, other than a small adjustment for S9. So anyways, let's get the bottom cover off. We'll take a look. Okay, here's the circuit board. So a lot of high quality back in the day when they built these. The boards were just much more quality. These cost, I think, a lot of money back when they were being produced as well. They were not, you know, on the lower end of cost of CB radios, so you kind of got what you paid for, I think, back then. There's a lot of modifications and stuff that can be done, and well, I'll leave that up to everybody as a personal opinion on that, but I feel like most of the stuff is worthless. Modulation, power, modification, stuff like that. It doesn't gain you anything. This radio, to me, from what I'm seeing, is absolutely factory stock. You can even see the back here, the tuning slug back there. Guys would rip that wax out of there. I'm kind of pointing in that general area right there, and start turning that stuff. And yeah, they're just doing it, and they're yelling audio, and they're looking at their watt meter, and you know, thinking, oh, it's increasing, so I'm doing good. But even the one over here, right over here, I don't have anything to point, and I don't want to stick anything conductive in there. So even that one, it's never been tampered with, I guess I should say. So see, everything looks good. Honestly, I don't even remember what, the variable resistors do. I'd have to reference some stuff off the internet to really find out. The only thing I really would be interested in at this point with this radio would probably be to just do a general frequency alignment and maybe just touch up that S9 on the meter, and that's probably it. Maybe the modulation I'd try to set to 100%. I don't know if this radio is capable without gutting it and cutting limiters, which I wouldn't do anyways, but I feel like there's got to be an AMC control on the board somewhere, and probably an ALC adjustment, so it's not really going to gain you much by doing it, but yeah, you might get a little bit more emphasis on your AM modulation if you just touched it up a little bit, because you guys seen on the waveform, it was just a little low. It wasn't at fully 100%, so it's not terrible. The radio sounds good coming through the ICOM. When I was transmitting, it sounded fine. I was just using and I think actually, if I dig it out here, the box that it came in, I think it came with a mic. At least I thought it did. Let me dig down in there. I think he had a picture of the unit and mic that came with it. So hang on a second, I'll see. Oh, bonus, it come with a power cord, so it looks like it's factory. Never even been used, because you can still see the factory solder on the plug, so that's cool. But that's not what I was looking for, but I'm glad I looked in the box, because I probably would have recycled this box and not even known it was in there. Okay, I turned my camera a little bit, but here's the mic, so it's pretty similar to the aftermarket. It needs to get cleaned up a little bit, but come with a mic, so, and it has the 5-pin on it, so we got a power cord, we got a mic, so bonus. I didn't know it came with the power cord. I was pretty sure it came with the mic though, but anyways, we'll test out the mic later. I'm pretty sure these are all the factory capacitors on the radio. I don't see a lot of nasty glue. There's a little bit of glue here and there, but some of the stuff they used was more like a beeswax, and some guys will confuse that with glue. Back in the day, they used kind of like a beeswax compound, and I'm thinking that may be what they put into those, like this, and the other one that I was talking about earlier over here. I'm not sure if it's actually a beeswax, but that's at least what I've heard. It's kind of like a beeswax compound. That's just to keep you out, like right here, to keep you out of this kind of stuff. So, but you can just see the quality of these variable inductors, I think they're called. Just a higher quality back then than what they put in radios now. Does that really help the radio? I don't know. There's just a different way that they did electronics back then than what they do now. So it's kind of a thing of beauty. There's a lot of capacitors on the board. I mean, none of them look like they're nowhere near the point where they've, they're blown up or anything, or starting to, you can tell they will actually, sometimes they will just fail and they'll just blow up, and that's really bad because that could actually damage the circuit board. But they all look like they're in pretty good shape, so it probably wouldn't hurt to go through and change them all due to the age of the radio. But everything looks good. So yeah, I didn't want to make this video, I guess, as long as it did, but anyways, I'm happy. I lucked out. What does it have for a PLL chip? Let me see. Let's get this light down here. 8719. And I don't know. I think that was the one that was highly modifiable. It's not the Ranger 8719. It's the actual, I think it's the actual real one. Yes, the Japan 8719. I don't know a lot about modifying these older radios because honestly back then I really wasn't doing anything more than just talking on the CB. You know, I was really young and these were the radios that were out. And that's what drew me to this radio because of how good it looked. Other than the scratching, which I think you can actually just get a new bezel for it if you wanted, if I wanted to, and probably still get new covers. Other than the fact that it's got the screw holes. I'm not sure if they make replacement covers that have screw holes like that, but I think they still do. You could always just put the speaker back in the new cover, or I think they might sell them with new speakers also. So nothing really special about the speakers, but anyways, yep, it's a good working radio. So in the meter, it's still doing that a little bit. So it's like sensitive to the, I guess, the static electricity of my finger. I don't know. Here's something for you guys to think about. Anyways, I've heard a lot of stuff people say when you get the COVID-19 vaccine that you become metallic. So you guys can believe whatever you want, or, you know, whether you believe in doing it or not doing it. I did it just because I was tired of wearing a mask and all that good stuff. But anyways, maybe I'm metallic. Who knows? Anyways, have a good one. Thanks for watching. If you had one of these and, you know, you enjoyed it back in the day, I hope you got some enjoyment out of watching me test this one out. And to my surprise, everything is working, and it's working good, and it's all factory. So I couldn't be happier to find a radio that's not all butchered up and swing mods and limiters cut, and it just makes me happy to see somebody took care of it, which I will do, and it will stay pretty much the way it is, minus maybe, like I say, doing the S9 and maybe just touch up the alignment on the transmit and check out the modulation a little more. Maybe I can just increase it a touch. So 7.3, have a good one.